I attended International World Day of Peace Millennium on 2000, and it was held in New York City at United Nations, who is the sponsor of this World Day of Peace. The opportunity came. I'd never heard of the World Day of Peace in this framework, and I asked one of our congregants if she would go with me. She decided not to, and an artist who was part of our community was willing to go. So we flew to New York City on September 19th. And I ended up at a retreat house in Nye, New York. Now, I always wondered where Nye, New York was. N-Y-E, Nye, New York. It's about 2 hours outside of New York City. And there was a beautiful retreat house there. And I walked in and I was just, in awe. Beauty, beauty. Now, this actually was previously owned by J.C. Penney. This was J.C. Penney's, one of his retreat houses. And it was beautiful. And I don't know if you know that J.C. Penney was part of the many people that came together to start the United Nations. So many groups of people met at this particular place. Even 25 years ago when I was there, they had business meetings sometimes. They had co-creating meetings. And so I was walking in the presence. It was quite something. Now, you go upstairs into the bedrooms, and there was nothing. We slept on cots. Now, there were about 6 or 7 women in my room, and they were from all over the world. Some of them didn't speak English, but they had made a point to be at the United Nations for World Day of Peace. Many of them represented organizations, and many of them heard about it and just showed up. So the lady in the cot next to me was from South Africa. Now, South Africa had been, at that time, coming through the honoring of all races, anti-apartheid, and this woman had had a black man work for her for years, her gardener. But there had always been a distance, she said. And when apartheid happened, she realized, this is not the way I want it to be. So she started to invite him in one week for lunch. And they started to talk. And they started to have things in common more than her garden. And then she decided to invite him for Friday night dinner. And he brought his family. And all of a sudden, she realized, this is it. This is the change. Now, every day she drove by a school. She had been a teacher. And it was a black boys' school. There were only black boys in that school. They were middle schoolers. And every day, as she went by, she noticed nobody had a lunchbox or a bag or anything. One day, she stopped and went in and into the school and asked, "Where's the cafeteria?" "Oh, we don't have a cafeteria." "Well, what do the boys eat?" "Whatever they can bring." She decided, now there are 200 boys in this school, I'm going to feed these boys. 3 days a week, she brought lovely soup, bread, goodies, sweets, and a bag to take home. She had been doing this for the last 5 years. And when she heard about interfaith groups of people coming, she didn't particularly come under a faith position. She came out of a caring position. So there's this lady, and then the Japanese lady, and then the woman from over there and over. Here we are on cots, sharing one bathroom, and so excited to go to the United Nations. So we got on the particular day, 2 days later, got on a big bus, drove into New York City, 2-hour drive, get in there. Now, they wouldn't let us all come in together. I don't know, but you had to empty everything. And we got to go in, and we couldn't sit together. Once again, security, security, security. So I ended up in a row with a nun on the left who taught yoga in Cuba. long line, a row of people who came from the John Denver Association, who had worked so hard for peace. There were every color, every size, every kind of clothing. We were in the gallery, and there were thousands of us. And sitting at the seats, you've seen on television with the little flags, and they press their button and they make a motion or they say something. Sitting at all the little seats were children. Priceless. So they did some introductions. There was a prayer, there was a song, and then they called roll. And they started, and the children would flip Libya here, Jordan here, America here. It was over 200, of course, in the United Nations. And every one of it, not a sound could be heard but those little children's voices. Now, after they had done roll call, someone came up to let us know these were children from impoverished schools. These children had very little in their lives. This probably was a moment that changed their life. They had been there all day. This happened in the afternoon. They had been there in the morning, and what they were asked to do when they sat down was to draw peace. Not words, but to draw peace. And those were now hanging in the hallways of the United Nations. Incredible. There were dancers from South Africa. There were readers from around the world. Now, the thing that was the most impressive, these little Japanese children came out in these wonderful white sarong kind of outfits, and they rolled in this tall, big, I don't know what word I would call them, circles of paper. So they were about this thick and this tall. And they rolled them in like this. And this was filled with poetry from Japanese children asking for forgiveness for having started a war and dropped bombs. Not a dry eye in that room. It had taken them 2 years. It came from all over Japan. Every school had participated in writing these poems. What could you say? We were spellbound. And then there was more music, and then there was more dancing. I mean, the heart overflowing in the midst of strangers that you will never see again, that came for one reason: peace. And who had seen and felt children from the poorest to the most prosperous. A day I'll never forget, as you can see, 25 years ago, this exact day. Now, I've carried that memory with me, and that has inspired me over and over and over in ministry on that particular day, especially on a Sunday, to celebrate it and to recreate it and to ask us, are we willing? Those children are willing. Are we willing? Now, as I was thinking about this message today, I kept thinking about it's like turning a page. Forgiveness, letting go of judgment, letting go of fear, letting go of resentment is like turning a page. And once you turn the page, rarely do we go back. We've turned the page. And in our thoughts, in our actions, in our emotions, we have, say it with me, turned the page. And so the question is, am I willing to turn the page? Am I willing to turn the page about any resentment I carry, any challenges that I'm still harboring, any poor me, Annie, you did this to me. Am I willing to turn the page? And some days we're not. Would you agree? Some days I'm holding on. They're fewer. They're fewer. Now, what is the joy we get from not turning the page? There's no joy in that, is it? The only joy is when we turn the page. Now, I have a story to share with you that is pretty deep. And you may not agree with it. I'm going to share it anyway. Once again, I've carried this story for years and years. It's a story someone sent to me, a book. And the book was called Revenge and Letting Go. And this was written by a woman, Laura Berman. And when she was young, her father, a Jewish man, was a tourist in the Middle East and was shot and injured badly. And she was mad. She was angry. She was frustrated. She was everything you can think of. Now, her dad did live, and he did heal, but he was I won't say that word. Say it for me, June. Incapacitated. And she was ticked off. How could it be a tourist? How is the world not safe? And she was angry. And she was angry at the person. She was angry at the situation. She was angry about everything. Now, eventually, she grew up to be a journalist, and she worked at a very well-known newspaper in New York City. And she was given the task of going to the Middle East and interviewing people. So she picked the exact area where her dad was. And she made an effort to get to know the man who had shot her dad's family. Now, they didn't know who she was. And she was American, and she was a journalist, and she got to know them and interviewed them, and it ended up being almost like family and being part of celebrations. And it was quite a learning experience for her because she realized that family and her family was just alike. Now, the question is she going to turn the page? The question is she going to forget or forgive or go to peace? Or is she going to remain with her hand on her hip and never forgive or forget? Well, as she got to know these people, they were just like her. She couldn't believe it. Lived in another part of the world, different kind of education, different kind of food, everything. And she really liked them. They did not know who she was, remember. So eventually, the man had been in prison who had shot his dad. And this was 13 years later, and he was up for parole. And she decided, I'm going to go to court. I'm going to say who I am, and I'm going to forgive him. Turn the page. Now, I'm not saying anyone should do this. I'm not saying this is the only way to peace. It is a way to peace. And how many of us are not turning the page? I think most of us are not in that exact situation, but we have things that are life-changing, and it's very difficult to move on. Very difficult. So, how deep is peace in your life? Are you willing on a daily basis to let go are you willing on a daily basis to send energy, kindness, goodness to the person who was unfair, who rejected you, who all of these things? Because we want the other guy to be peaceful. We want countries to be peaceful. We want our leaders to be peaceful. We want everyone else but ourselves to be peaceful. We sing it all the time. Where does peace begin? Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with who? Oh, the other guy. Oh, the one over there. Let it begin with me. How does it start? To me, it's turning the page, turning my thoughts, turning my energy, going in another direction, writing in a journal, going to a therapist, going to prayer, whatever way. Peace is my goal. Peace is my goal. Would you say that with me? Peace is my goal. Peace is my goal. Let's say it again. Peace is my goal. Last night, Daniel sang One Power, my very favorite song. My very, 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 very favorite song. And I've heard him sing it in front of thousands of people and our size of a group last night. One power, one God. And people are standing over us here saying, no, my God's better. My God, my belief, my whatever. And where is it going? And we often feel powerless. Well, I'm just one person in Salem, Oregon. What can I affect in the world? You can turn the page. And once we turn the page in our lives, we are making an effect, an energy shift in the world. Georgie agrees with me. Anyone else agree with me? Because, and it's big work. It's big. I'm not saying this is candy. It's big work. And it is our work. It is our work. We don't get to skip it, really. I mean, we can dance around it. We can pretend, that is the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we don't get to skip it. Might as well start now. Okay. So I have in my pocket, not in my pocket. I have right here a feather. And I have a little blue card with a feather on it. Look at me go back and forth. And when I was in ministry in Lake Oswego, we passed these out on a regular basis. And this is a prayer feather ceremony. And this is normally used by Native Americans. And feathers and all of nature, of course, are special to them. So they ask you to take a feather, say a prayer. Say a prayer for peace. Say a prayer for healing. Say a prayer for whatever resonates with you while you hold this feather. And then you're going to take it home and hang it in a tree. And the wind carries your prayer. And your wind carries your prayer. Are you willing? Yes. Okay. So when we're doing offering, we're going to pass out the feathers. And we had planned to go outside, and it is a little bit sunny now. So you remember, some of you, that Dick Thomas brought us some peace trees. And they are planted on the other side. So Dick's going to come up and just say a few words about where they came from and his intention. Thank you.
Thank you. Pre-COVID times, some information came our way about a group in Hiroshima, Japan, that took seeds from trees that survived the bombing, and they distributed the seeds throughout the world as a sign of peace and as a sign of what they call the proliferation or the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. A wonderful lady in Southern Oregon got quite a few of the seeds and propagated them through a nursery down in Medford and through the work of the Oregon Forestry Department. The trees were distributed to those that requested them. Well, I thought, gosh, what a beautiful addition to our peace garden. And I put in a request for 3 trees. And they thought, wow, nobody's done that before. But anyway, they accepted that. And we were able to pick up 3 of the trees. Well, these trees were ginkgo trees. And ginkgo trees are the oldest species of tree in the world. They have been around for more than 250 million years. They're amazing, and they haven't changed hardly at all in all that time. They're tenacious. So we had 3 trees out there, and 2 of them succumbed to the gophers, which was too bad. But we have 1 survivor, and it's out there, and it has leaves, and it's trying to grow. And thanks to volunteers who have watered it and taken care of it, it's thriving. And so, yeah. So these trees have been planted all over the world, and in hopes that it will bring a reminder that we need to always strive for peace in our lives for everyone. So.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah.